Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry, and I'm the EURES News and Information Bureau Manager. I'd like to welcome you to the second of two EURES podcasts. These podcasts present interesting stories of how the EURES network helps job seekers and employers throughout Europe. For this second podcast, we're traveling to Spain to meet Daniel Bellón. He's a EURES staff in the Canary Islands who helps local job seekers find a job in Spain or in another country. Spain is a traditional sending country. This means that EURES staff here work mostly to help Spanish job seekers find a job somewhere else in Europe. In this podcast, we're going to learn more about Daniel's tasks and how he came to be a member of the EURES family. Welcome, Daniel, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Hello from Canary Islands.
Okay, as with all good stories, let's start at the very beginning. How did you become a EURES staff, and what attracted you to it?
Wow, I started at EURES in the very beginning. I'm talking about the 90s. One day, my regional manager at the Public Employment Service came and asked to all of us if people were interested in working with foreign countries. And that was all the information he had then at that time. And I said, yes, me, without a clear idea about what EURES would be. The European idea was, and still is, very attractive to me. And the idea of freedom. Sometimes we forget that the freedom of movement was a conquest of workers. In some countries, mobility is limited, even inside their own borders. Something like, if you have been put in this place, it will be your place forever. And I think that freedom of movement is a basic part of freedom. On the other hand, my job within EURES has been changing all the time, from advice and guidance in the beginning to recruit and support now. And being part of EURES helps you keep updated and get new skills all the time. For instance, a couple of years ago, nobody considered social media as a part of the daily working activity, and now it is. You are learning in EURES all the time, and this is great.
Tell us a little bit more about your job and responsibilities.
Okay, I am an almost full-time EURES advisor. It wasn't always like this, I must say. In a way, we built our own workplace or profile just by doing things. My colleague Marisa in Tenerife and I always think, in the very old times, that advice and counseling was great, but it was better to place your candidates in actual vacancies. So we soon started with recruitment for other countries, and that helped us to dedicate more and more time to EURES until the time when we became almost full-time. I like to say that because I know there are a good number of EURES colleagues working only part-time in EURES, less time than they would like, maybe. If they find the needs of the customers around them and are active in projects, in EURES projects, they can get more work through EURES time, even if it is little by little.
So what's your typical working day like?
Means multitasking, because new duties arise, but you can leave the old ones. I mean, we are now focused on placement and recruitment, but you must also give advice and counseling to job seekers that come to you. In other countries, EURES advisors are specialized in some specific task, but this is not the case in Spain. My typical working day starts with emails, sometimes before I even sit at my desk, because I receive WhatsApp messages from my colleagues about projects we are handling together. And when I arrive at work at 8, for my mainlander colleagues it's 9, and they have already been working for an hour. I must be very organized because I need to manage my appointment agenda with candidates, but also the schedule with the different projects I'm involved in. In terms of recruitment, I am one of the members of the Nordic Spanish EURES team that is in charge of the organization of recruitment activities in Spain, and also job days, events tailored to Scandinavian companies interested in recruiting in Spain. We are having next week an info and recruitment event for Swedish employers and advisors in the two main Canary Islands. And all this means organization. Communication is also a part of the job. We in Spain and in the Canary Islands have our own social media tools, that needs to be fed. And that media means another way of contacting for people, so more work. Video conference device now are a daily tool for us, also for online meetings with colleagues and employers. And we also organize workshops with local job seekers about the EURES services and about the EURES tools, or about a specific country. We try to have one of these workshops once a month, monthly. Workshops are very interesting because they help people with the same interest, namely mobility, to meet together in one place and communicate with each other. And sometimes the most interesting info in these workshops comes from the participants.
Okay, that's a lot of tasks in one day, Daniel. Very
Yeah.
interesting. It's very interesting. Spain is a traditional sending country. This means that many Spanish job seekers will often look for a job in a different European country. That must have a big influence on your job. What sort of activities do you implement as EURES Canarias to address that demand?
Okay, Jerry. Mobility means languages skills. And that used to be the hardest barrier for Spanish job seekers for years. Of course, Spanish qualified job seekers speak another European languages, and young people language skills are much better than older job seekers or job changers. But it is still a problem. The Public Employment Service in my region organized language training courses, but focus mostly on tourist-related jobs. Keep in mind that the Canary Islands are a leading European tourist destination, so we need our people to speak languages, not to go abroad, but to get good jobs at home. When we have traineeship projects, language training is always included, and we intensively promote all the EURES mobility schemes and tools like your first EURES job or Reactivate. We are always trying to attract companies and colleagues to come to the Canary Islands to recruit. And it's not easy because we are a bit far away. It is true that our region has a very high unemployment rate, especially among young people, because the Canarian population, and it is good, is younger than the most of the European Union, and growing even more with people coming from other places. But it's also true that we have two good public universities and a very good network of professional schools, so we produce skilled workers too. Being so far away from the European mainland and being made up of 7 islands make us very conscious of the practical difficulties of job mobility for our job seekers. At the same time, Canarians have a long tradition of migration and mobility to Europe and to America, and some European countries are very attractive for us. But distance is already a challenge.
Uh, how is that relationship with employers outside of Spain? How do you approach them? Are there any partners who help you reach out to them?
Well, when Spain was suffering the hardest part of the last crisis, Spain developed a strategy based on cooperation with other colleagues from other EU countries, where there could be job opportunities for our people. We call this strategy permanent cooperation bridges. That strategy means that we work very closely with our EURES partners in the receiving country with a lot of communication, building trust. Because for us it's important to know that our candidates go to serious companies abroad, and for companies we think it's important to know that there is a serious partner in the sending country. In countries like Germany, our German colleagues, are the employer's contact always. In other countries, for instance Sweden, sometimes we share the contact visiting companies together. We are adaptable, but always in collaboration with our EURES partners. Now in Spain, we are starting a new project called Recruiting in Spain, and we encourage employers to use our EURES services to find the best candidates in Spain. Last October, EURES Spain organized our first Recruiting in Spain online event that was quite successful. Anyway, for us, the support of our EURES colleagues in the employers' countries is essential. In this way, we are sure that we are promoting fair mobility according to the EURES rules.
Okay, so the keyword here is teamwork, cooperation with your
Of course,
colleagues.
Of course.
And in terms of partnerships, Daniel,
Uh-huh.
do you have any with specific organizations or stakeholders?
Yes, Jerry. Nationwide, EURES Spain has agreements with the professional boards of doctors, with the professional board of nurses, and with the engineers organizations. And this is an important umbrella for us for our daily work. At the local level, we cooperate a lot with our universities and the professional training schools across the 7 islands.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about the EURES network now. How is EURES Canarias' relationship with other offices, not just abroad, but also elsewhere in Spain? Any common projects taking place now?
Oh, I need to start with the internal Canarian EURES network. We are two EURES advisors, my colleague Marisa Carmona in Tenerife and me in Las Palmas, with the support of Beatriz Martin. And we used to say that we are a kind of three-headed monster, really a team. Having said that, the Spanish EURES network is a very good place to work, full of nice and hardworking colleagues. The network is organized in Spain in thematic teams, and I am part of the Nordic Spanish EURES team and of the Communication and Visibility Group, handling the EURES Spain communication strategy. We are very involved in the daily life of the EURES Spanish network. Abroad, I'm well known in the network because of all my years. And I don't just have colleagues, but friends in a lot of countries. However, in the last years, we have been very focused on our projects with Germany, Austria, and with the Nordic countries. With these countries, cooperation is on a daily basis. Recently, we had a recruitment here for the hostelry professionals for the winter season in Austria, with the participation of two Austrian colleagues, Gerhard and Mark, and a representative of the employers' chambers of Cell and Sea. We are starting a project with the stagiaires in Austria for next year for Canarian job seekers, and in the next week, we'll have our EURES Swedish Days in Canary Islands with the participation of Swedish EURES colleagues and companies.
Okay. On a personal level now, what is the best part of being a EURES staff?
On the personal level, the best, my colleagues. There are also other very good parts. The permanent learning, working in an international European environment, meeting new and very interesting people all the time. But at the end of the day, the very, very best is when you know that you have really helped someone to follow his or her goals, dreams, whatever, when you have the feeling of being really helpful.
It is, isn't it? You make a difference in people's lives every day, Danielle.
Yeah, we try to do that.
Okay, finally, uh, and since we might have some new EURES colleagues listening, what skills are important for your job as EURES staff? Do you have any words of wisdom to share with other colleagues?
Wow, words of wisdom. Oh my goodness. I have no wisdom at all. I can tell you what I have learned from other colleagues during these years. A couple, a few, but very important things. First, listen carefully before you start talking. And this has been very hard for me to learn because I'm a chatty guy, and sometimes I forget, and my closest colleagues are running quick to remind me, please, Daniel, shut up a bit. The second, put yourself in the shoes of your interlocutors and try to build win-win situations in recruitment projects. Third, and this is just a thought, one of the results of the EURES work, of the EURES daily work for our clients, job seekers, employers, is to make freedom possible. Freedom to move, freedom to choose where and how to live. And we can take that freedom for granted, unfortunately. We need to show that mobility helps to solve problems for Europe and Europeans all the day.
There are those words again, Danielle, freedom and mobility. You've mentioned
Yeah,
them a few times today.
yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for telling us about your EURES experience, and thank you to all our listeners who are joining us today.
Thank you again, Jared, for having me, and greetings to all of you from Canary Islands.
Thank you, Danielle. And don't forget, there's also a first part there, rather, to this podcast. We traveled to Slovenia to discuss how a European job day that gathers tourism and food industry employers from across Europe brought together a Euro staff, an employer, and a job seeker. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye bye.